Welcome to It's Gorgamatic, the inside scoop on the biggest plays in sports. It's not automatic, it's better. It's Gorgamatic. And here's your host, Tim McNabb.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a Saturday edition of It's Gorgamatic. KG, I got to ask, who did we just see sneak behind you? Your house hasn't been invaded, is what I'm saying.
No, my better half trying to keep the dogs corralled. They're all fired up. They're waiting to go out. We're going to the Gopher game later today here in the Twin Cities, and so we're trying to get these dogs in a place of calm before the storm.
Why are you going to the Gopher game?
Youngest daughter, Annika, as I mentioned earlier in the week, is a part of the Lakeville North Marching Band. She's a drum major, and they're going to be playing with the Golden Gopher Marching Band today during their halftime show. We're super excited to see it. You know, Timmy, it's her senior year. It's off to a great start. And just 9/11 today, being a part of any live sporting event on the 20-year anniversary, certainly a somber day in our history, thinking of all of those unbelievable heroes and, of course, the families that lost loved ones on that day. I vividly remember it, and I remember when we got back to sports how soothing that was, and I'm sure today at the Gopher game, between my daughter being out there at halftime and some of the remembrance they're going to have at Huntington Bank Stadium, it's going to be a real special day.
Well, boy, so yesterday at the end of Let's Play Every Day, I tried to let everyone do the remembrances of 9/11, and me being the emotional puddle that I am, I had my assignment that day from CARE was I went to the Burnett household and I interviewed Tom Burnett Sr. about Tom Burnett Jr. And here's a guy who was roughly my age. I grew up in White Bear. He grew up in Jefferson. I never knew him. But reading the bio on him, captain of the football team, quarterback of the football team, just everything the man was just above and beyond, right? And then to hear the stories from his dad and then go to the game that night where they honored him and have his dad there, you know, tugging on my jacket, and I turned around and we just hugged for about 5 minutes and just bawled. That's as close as I ever came to Tom Burnett Jr., but, you know, just what a man. He was on that Flight 93. He was one of those guys. My wife and I spent hours watching National Geographic last night. They went through that 9/11 from every angle. I wholeheartedly encourage everyone. It's a lot and it's heavy, but you really need to, to do that, to be reminded of what happened 20 years ago today and where we were.
Yeah, no question. I've watched some of those specials too, and you feel like you know Tom Burnett and some of the heroes because for 20 years we've heard the stories. We've heard from their family, and I watched Dateline last night, and his wife and 3 daughters are on there, and I'm telling you, it's well worth the watch. Just amazing, compelling television, and we should celebrate those folks all the time, but especially today.
You know, it's one of those, thank you, and I will do that. And it's one of those things where I think about Tom Burnett, especially this time of year, but a lot of times, and at that time in my life, like I said, we were so similar. We were married. We had small children. What would I have done if I was on that plane? And I just wish I would have acquitted myself the way Tom Burnett Jr. did, because think of the countless lives that they saved by their actions on Flight 93. True hero.
No question. Someone that's who we should idolize and put up on a pedestal. People like that, the people of that Flight 93 specifically, that were so unselfish to wait till they got over an area where there was no population, a rural area, and then try to take over the cockpit. I mean, it was last night. It brought back all the emotions, and you know, you wake up today on the 20th anniversary, and it all comes back to you, where you were, what you were thinking, and for weeks just being mesmerized by these stories.
Amen. Absolutely. All right. This is a special Saturday edition of It's Gorgamatic. We're live streaming on my Facebook page. We're in the process of moving all this as Let's Play Sports Network over to their Facebook page and YouTube accounts. So if you miss us live, you're going to find all of KG's plays right there starting next week, and we're going to let you know when that transfer is complete. So here he is, giving a part of this Saturday, Kevin Gord. Sports reporter, handicapper, able to leap small children in a single bound, but more important, the celebrity handicapper to the stars. KG, it was fun to see your little steam yesterday on Twitter. The hockey community, of which you play a significant and prominent role, have their ears up. Dignitaries like Alex Micheletti and Tommy Chorsky weighing in, and we thank them, asking about the name Gorgamatic. Can you give us the backstory on Gorgamatic 21?
Yeah, 21 years ago, the year 2000, working out at Canterbury Park, my first real television gig outside of doing local cable hockey with LaPanta in the 90s. And Joe Anderson from KFAN, Mr. Fun, as we know him. Great, what a great guy, right? And So I'm in the press box. I'm doing the handicapping. I'm the TV guy downstairs making my selections. And on days when I would get hot at Canterbury, I'd come back, every race I'd come back up to the press box in between to kind of cool off in that air conditioning. And he'd look at me and goes, "Oh my God, you're good today. In fact, you might even be Gorgamatic today." And then once in a while he'd throw in a Gorgalicious, and it just kind of spun off from there. Yeah. So we're not going to go down that road, but the Gorgamatic stuck. And so just 6 months ago when my Twitter handle got hacked, I decided because we were switching over from Fox Sports North to Bally Sports North, I needed a new handle. And I went back to the year 2000 and Mr. Fun and went with Gorgamatic 21.
And then you and I talked about doing this. And when I thought that, I was looking for a name to the show, and I saw Gorgamatic, and I go, it's Gorgamatic. And that's it. Here we are. All right, we're going to be roughly alive until roughly 9 o'clock, and I burned 6 minutes. KG does have a heart out, as he said. He's got to get to that football game between Miami of Ohio and the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers. So in the process for Gorgamatic, we don't have a set number of games that Gorgamatic's going to do. This is his show. He's going to look at what's out there. He's going to give you the games that he likes. He's going to tell you why he likes them, and he's going to give you his thoughts on those games. That is all. What you choose to do with that information is entirely up to you. Is that right? Do I have it about right?
Yeah, I think everybody's different with how many games they play, what they're doing, whether it's an office pool, which a lot of people are involved in, and we'll do again tomorrow. At the same time for NFL football. We'll do it every weekend. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, there's different ways you can interpret this. You can use it in daily fantasy. You can use it a lot of different ways. We're just going to give you our opinions here. I'm going to try to find games that I have some affection for, some reasons for that affection, and we'll just kind of roll from there and hope to give the people a chance to make some money.
That's right. All right. So that said, and the point I wanted to make too was, you may join us on our daily, it's Gorgamatic, and you may go, well, he's only given 2 games. That's because he only likes 2 games. You're not going to force feed people stuff that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, there's 30, 40, 50 games you could pick out today. I've found 5 that I actually like. I found 2 earlier in the week in college football that I wanted to play before the lines moved. And the one of the games we talked about, the line continues to move in the wrong direction. So I wanted to hop in and get that game locked in. But yeah, these are the games I think are the best opportunities for success, trying to win at a 60% clip or higher in these games. And as everybody knows, it's not easy to do. We're not going to sit here and tell you every game is going to be a winner. That's not how this works. It's a tough game to beat the number. Vegas is pretty darn good at putting up that number. Look back at that Gopher game 10 days ago. They were right on that number, even though neither team had played. So they know what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. That said, as Kevin alluded to, we've got 5 games to talk about from the college football action. And I love where you're starting because you're just starting a couple hours to the south. Iowa at Iowa State.
Yeah, this is the epicenter of college football. Game day will be down there, so it's a huge day in Ames, Iowa. Shout out to the Cyclones and all their fans. I've got some friends whose kids attend that school. They are so excited to go to that football game, and it's going to be an unbelievable experience, right? It's always a big game when Iowa comes to Iowa State, but we got to put all those emotions aside, Tim. We got to get down to the nuts and bolts of this game where Iowa State's a 4.5-point favorite. They're the higher ranked team. They should be favored. They have got the better team on paper. They return all 11 on offense. That is rare. 9 of their 11 return on defense. That's the good news. They were 9-3 last year. They have a good team, right? Iowa, though, last week in their unveiling, hosted Indiana, who had a lot of preseason steam, and they throttled the Hoosiers. And as I handicapped this game and looked at the series, year in, year out, these were tight football games. Even when Iowa was the dominant team, they were tight games. And then I look within those returning players for Iowa State. They have never tasted victory against the Hawkeyes. Iowa has won 5 consecutive in this series. And even though that 4.5 looks like a bear trap, because I thought the line would be closer to 3, I'm going to go ahead and play Iowa here. I think these kids have the experience to know that they can beat this football team. And even though Iowa State probably is the better team on paper, I think there's some pressure built in today with all the distractions that game day and their friends and everybody think of that campus all week long, the buzz that this game's been about. I think the intangibles favor the Hawkeyes. I'm going to call for the Hawkeyes to cover that 4.5.
I think this is a really interesting play because it's a bowl game for Iowa State. They're at home. It's going to be just jacked. But there's that interstate rivalry. And I think the one thing here that, I've got some friends who are Iowa fans, and it's funny because they'll be like, yeah, I think it's time for Kirk Ferentz to go. And I'm like, really? Because if you want to drive him up north, I'll take him at the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, 23 years, wins every single year in, year out, puts out a quality product. And this isn't Ohio State and Michigan. I mean, this is the cornfields. This is Kinnick Stadium, and he has built a winning tradition. And yeah, he's as good a coach as there is in the country. Those rumors make me laugh every time I hear them. Think of some of the clown shows we've seen at the college football level. I mean, this guy runs a class program, and they are a consistent winning outfit. And that's why, even though as I looked at this game, I had some trepidation, it wasn't one of my stronger of the 5 I'm playing this week, but I'm like, I got to take the points. I'm taking this team and this coaching staff to find a way to keep it tight.
And he's salty too. I mean, look at last year at the University of Minnesota, when we thought that PJ was doing too much at the end of the game. He started taking some timeouts, and it's like, you're like, yeah, I don't like that, but you know what? I'd like it a lot if he was my head coach.
Yeah, he is salty. Salty is a good word too. He's got a little feistiness to him, and I think his team kind of plays that way too. They play that smack you in the face, hard-nosed football that works in the Big Ten, and I think will work against an Iowa State team that's probably got more skill. But when you get to the trenches of this game, I think Iowa can hang. I really do.
Yeah, looking at Tristan Wirfs the other night playing out there for Tampa Bay, and they took him out of Iowa and they plugged him in as a rookie at the right tackle, and he's right there. You know, he's right there at the level of anybody in the game, and that's what Iowa. That's what as University of Minnesota, you got to get to where Wisconsin and Iowa have been now for decades, and they just turn over their offensive and defensive fronts.
Yeah, that's the benchmark. And I think PJ Fleck's doing a good job of building this program, starting on the line. And then we saw that against Ohio State. They had some success running the ball before Ibrahim got hurt. And I think that's the template in this conference to have success. If you can win the line of scrimmage in the Big Ten, you can be at least in Iowa and Wisconsin, which, hey, we'll take that in Minnesota. And there's no reason they can't do that if PJ can keep doing what he's been doing.
All right, your second play today, Illinois at Virginia. The line is the over-under is 56, and the play is, but the line has the Cavaliers giving 10.5 points to Brett Bielema and Illinois, who looked pretty solid, I guess, unspectacular against Nebraska in their opener.
Yeah, they took a punch early. They got down in the game. I think it was 9-2. It was an awkward score. And then they just found a way to kind of stabilize that game, and they were the better team. Make no mistake. They created some turnovers, and they looked like the more polished product right off the hop for this new coaching staff. You know, when I first looked at the game, and reminder to the fans watching, this is a 10 a.m. Central Time start. Wherever you're watching us, this game starts in less than an hour and a half. So if you're going to put some parlays together and make your plays, or if you're driving down south here in the Twin Cities to Diamond Joe's, you better step it up if you want to play this game, because it starts in about an hour and 15 minutes. Virginia comes off a game where they beat William and Mary 43-0. And on paper, you look at that, you say, well, 43-0, that's great. But to me, it's two contrasting opening weeks where one team kind of had to go out there and grind it out against just a brutal team that they were much better than. And Illinois had to play a really good team in Nebraska that matched up with them. When I say really good team, I don't mean like they're going to be a good team in the Big Ten, but compared to William and Mary, they're top in class. And I think that really was a good test. Illinois had to come from behind. Virginia was 5-5 last year. They returned 14 of their starting 22. All that's well and good, but they were a 5-5 product. And I think this line is a little bit inflated because they blew out somebody last week. And I think the battle-tested way that Illinois played that game against Nebraska tells me they can take a punch early in this game and hang with the Cavaliers. I'm going to take Illinois to cover. I'm going to take Brett Bielema. He's not my favorite guy, but I liked what I saw on the football field last week, and I think they can cover the 10.5.
Of your 5 plays, this is the one that I got the most excited about, and that's saying something because it's hard to like anything about Brett Bielema. I mean, he's just not one of those. He's kind of a detestable figure, I guess, unless you're related to him. But yet he's a guy that's going to build from the trenches out. It doesn't happen overnight, but his football team's going to play a certain way. I think it travels well. I like this game a lot. I really was excited to see your play here. So again, the line for KG, or the play from KG, Illinois, plus 10.5. I like that one a lot. Number 3, this one really is like the game that the most of the country is going to be watching tonight. And I was like, whoa, okay, so it's number 12, Oregon, at number 3, The Ohio State University. The over-under 63.5, which is big. And then OSU giving 14.5. Where are we going with this?
Well, when I first saw the number, Timmy, and it's a marquee matchup, and I thought, well, geez, that's a big number. I mean, in my mind, and if people watch this daily and if they stay with us week by week throughout the football season, anybody that knows me knows I will always try to make a case for the underdog. That's who I am. I'm racetrack trained. I'm looking for the points. And as I handicapped this game, I went in thinking I was going to love one side, and then I dug deep and crunched the numbers, and I came out on the other side. And that side's Ohio State. I like the Buckeyes here, and there's a couple reasons for it. Remember what we saw 10 days ago here locally in Minnesota, where quarterback making his debut in a completely hostile environment on a national stage, right? And he struggled. 48 yards passing in the first half. He was really shackled and didn't get much done. But what really showed me something was the way that C.J. Stroud adapted, and Ohio State was able to put up big plays and big yards in the second half. They let him throw the ball. They tried some deep passes, and they have skilled players. And I think he'll be so much more comfortable now making his second collegiate start on his home field with his home crowd. And I look at Oregon, and Oregon's got a good team, but they were all out last week to beat an unranked Fresno State team, and now they're going to go on the road to a really very big, tough place to play at the Horseshoe. I just think Ohio State probably allows Oregon to score some points. The over-under kind of dictates that. But I think in the second half, when it's time to cover the spread, I think Ohio State, like they did against Minnesota, makes enough big plays to eke out, I think, a similar score, maybe a 45-24 type of game where it's entertaining. But Ohio State, I think, is the right play. I think that number is begging for people to play the Ducks, and I think the general public will be on the side of Oregon, and I'll shade the favorite here.
I like it. And the other thing, a final word for me on this whole thing, too, is we just got to look at how loaded Ohio State is for offensive talent. I mean, they really do. They put 4 backs out there last week that were just ridiculously good. They can catch the ball, the bubble screens to the outside that they can do. You watch the guys who are number one receivers blocking for their teammates. They play it the right way. That coach is Ryan Day is about as good as they come. I mean, that's a really fine program.
I just don't know how Oregon's going to stop them, Timmy. I think that Ohio State's going to be able to really move the ball at will. And if that's the case, I know 14.5 is a lot of points, but I'm with you. Well coached, a lot of good skill players, and a quarterback that's in a much more comfortable scenario. They put up 45 points against Minnesota, who has a really good and veteran team on defense, and they did it on the road with his very first start. I have to think this is a more favorable position for the Buckeyes, and I have to think they're going to find a way to cover that number.
You make me feel good, and I do know you love a dog. All right, number 4, NC State at Mississippi State. The line, the over-under is 55. NC State given 1.5.
Yeah, talk about a cool matchup. And I'll be home from Huntington Bank Stadium in time to watch this one. I'm going to dive in. Mike Leach is one of those guys. If you're a sports fan, you have to love this guy. I'm not sure I'd want him coaching my football team, but as a fan, I want to hear what this guy's going to say every time he gets in front of a microphone. I love.
He's a man.
Yes, he's something. So, okay, second year at Mississippi State, 4-7 last year. They returned 8 on both sides of the ball. And, a mediocre team last year, to say the least. Last week, Louisiana Tech gave them all they wanted. They were down 20 points to La Tech, came back and won an emotional game, 35-34. That was taxing. We talked about NC State. We were doing some of our trial runs here on this show, and we talked about them laying the points against South Florida, and they made it look easy. They returned 19 of their 22, and they looked like it. They rolled over South Florida, who's not a good team, but they beat them 45-0. They were 8-4 last year. They were a good team, and running back Zonovan Bam Knight looks like the real deal. 10 runs, 163 yards. How do you win on the road? You do it with defense, which they certainly have, and a good running game. And Bam Knight is that guy. They're going to feed him. They're going to rely on their defense. I think Mississippi State's going to have a hard time moving the chains. And this game opened up at Mississippi State 1 early last week, and now already it's shifted to NC State -1.5. I checked about a half an hour ago. It's still at NC State laying the 1.5. I will do that. I will trust the Wolfpack. I know it's tough on the road against an SEC team. I get all of that, but I think this NC State team is flying under the radar. I think they're a really good team, and I think today's another step in the right direction for that program.
I love it. And that game's 6:00 start.
6 p.m. So dinner time here in the cornfields. And I think a really cool matchup. I mean, I think one of those games where both these teams will likely be bowl teams. Both these teams will likely be teams that play big games down the road inside their conference. And I think NC State is a team I'm going to be keeping an eye on. I was really impressed, not with beating South Florida, Timmy, last week, but the way they did it with veritable ease. They really looked like a polished product for week number 1.
Well, I did. I was intrigued to see them jump up on your slate again, because I said, okay, here they are back again. So I can see that you liked what you saw. You're following them, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, as we handicap these games week by week, you want to pay attention and you want to watch some of the ebbs and flows. The injury situations are one thing, but how a team is playing, how a team's coming together early in the season. If you're going to be able to get the jump on Vegas, I think your best chances in that opening month of games here in September before some of the lines are adjusted. And I think if your opinion is right now, you look at this game and you say, well, if they played this game 3 or 4 weeks later, would NC State be a 5 or 6 point favorite? That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that kind of value. And I think we might have it here because this game is week number 2 and we just don't have a lot of data. And so the number is much smaller. It's more of a pick 'em game. And I think the Wolfpack are clearly the better team.
I love it. That's why you are Gorgamatic. Our final college game, Washington University playing at Michigan. Jim Harbaugh. This has got to be the make or break year for Jim Harbaugh. The line over under 48.5. Michigan given 7 points at the Big House.
Yeah, Michigan is one of those teams, and he's one of those coaches that draw an awful lot of attention, and it's been a tough run. And if you've been laying points of Michigan in the last couple of years with this coaching staff, you've been burned a lot of times. I was surprised to see this number up near 7. It's drifting back towards 6.5 as I speak, and I think the money's going in the right direction. I mean, Michigan comes off a win, 47-14 over Western Michigan. It wasn't that pretty. They pulled away late, but they haven't been a great football team. Now, Washington was a preseason top 20 product, and they're at home against Montana, and the Grizzlies not only held them to 7 points, but beat them 13-7, a really disappointing loss. Their quarterback, who's a redshirt freshman named Dylan Morris, had 3 bad picks. So you got to handicap this with some trepidation. No doubt about it. Some confidence was lost. But I think the better team's getting the points here, Timmy. If I look at the big picture here and look at where these teams are headed over the next couple of months, I would put my money on Washington to get back into the top 20, not Michigan. I put my money on Washington to be a team that can not only be a bowl team, it can contend in their conference for a championship. I don't feel the same way about Michigan. I've seen them too many times in this spot, and I think it's the easier play because they're off the win. They looked better doing it. Washington had that horrible loss at home. They're going to bounce back. The Huskies are the play here. I would consider a money line play. I'm absolutely taking the 6.5 or the 7 points with the purple-clad Washington Huskies. I'm going to pick on Harbaugh. Nothing against him personally, but I've just seen this movie too many times. They have been an underachieving product now for the last 5 years.
And I feel like I like this only because, too, if you're Washington, you're not starting that season 0-2. You're going to do everything you can to avoid that. Those coaches are coaching that way. Those kids are going to show up. They're going to have to play that way. So those are the 5 we guaranteed you. We have a few minutes left, and I'm going to get this man off by 9 a.m. I do not want anyone in the Gorg household unhappy with me. But yesterday he did slide us a couple early NFL picks. I shot you a text on this. Are you good with going back down over those picks again?
Yeah, I'll start with Philadelphia, right? We talked about Philly getting points at Atlanta and not quite sure why it's over a field goal. I thought that extra half point was really important. Philadelphia is getting 3.5 in a spot where I think they're kind of equal teams. And I know Atlanta has some great weapons. They picked up that tight end Pitts that in fantasy I think could be a real nice rookie tight end for you. They've still got Calvin Ridley, who's unbelievably good. They've got Mike Davis, the guy that did so well with Carolina when McCaffrey got hurt last year. But Philadelphia, people don't respect this team. They don't respect Jalen Hurts. He's a really good quarterback in a really good system. And boy, does Atlanta make quarterbacks look good. So I think Philadelphia getting 3.5 points for me is going to be a money line play and a point play. I'm going to key in on them. They're one of my stronger opinions this week in the National Football League.
I love it. The other one you gave us was the LA Chargers at, I'm going to say Washington, because I saw a guy yesterday on social media absolutely blow a gear over people calling him the Washington football team. He's like, stop. And I'm like, wow, I don't know why that bothers him so much. So just for him, I'm saying LA Chargers at Washington.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at the logistics of this game. It's a pick 'em game. Now Washington is a 1-point favorite. The Chargers have Eckler, who is going to play now. I mean, he missed a lot of practice, so I don't know what kind of workload they're going to give their brilliant running back, but that has to be factored in. And I'm a big fan of their quarterback, Justin Herbert. I think the Air Bear is fabulous, and I had him on my fantasy teams last year, and he was really good. But this is a tough spot. Washington, in my eyes, is a top 3 or 4 defense in the NFL. It's a 10 a.m. start if you're on your body clock for the Chargers. Cross-country trip early in the season, running back that missed practice all week long. And Washington, I think, people talk about their defense, but Fitz beard, and again,
sprinkling a little Fitz magic,
right? I mean, he's like a cartoon character that won't go away, and now he's got some weapons. I mean, he's got Terry McLaurin. He's got that really good tight end Logan Thomas. I think they can move the ball against this Chargers team. I don't think it's going to be, an easy type of game. It's going to be a tight game, but I have to go to Washington here. I think they're the right play, and I think the football team gets it done.
When you think about it, we're all just saying, okay, we can't dog Tom Brady anymore at 44. He's proven it. So should we be heaping dirt on Fitzmagic at 38? He's spry.
He is spry, and he has a way of just kind of reinventing himself team after team, year after year. He's just he's a fun guy to watch. He's a player I want to watch.
All right, I'm going to let him go, but I just want to make a commercial before we do that. You're watching this. We started up something called the Let's Play Sports Network. That's what's happening behind me. We're streaming all this stuff. We're still in the process of moving it, getting our social media, all the rest of it up. So we're going to hit you in more places. That is coming. One of the things you could also be playing today is called Super Draft. Super Draft is the next big thing in daily fantasy sports. And the team that we're building here with me is Let's Play Super Draft. You can find our content on the Let's Play Sports Network Facebook and YouTube pages. If you want to find out how to play Super Draft and what it is, DM me and I will get right back to you. You can find me on the social media and we'll do that. A reminder, tomorrow, once again, Gorgamatic's giving up his Sunday from 8:30 to 9 o'clock. We're going to have a full slate of NFL action. KG's going to give us his plays. And I hope that you have a fabulous day out at the game. I hope Annika has a wonderful experience. Apologize to your better half, but tell her she's got to watch the beginning of this because we absolutely caught her sliding across behind you. And she did a great job with the dogs, by the way.
Yeah, the dogs were perfectly quiet. I got to give both the dogs, Fenway and Brooks, and Miss Chrissy high marks. And we're going to that game. We're going to watch Annika, but because we had a couple of college football touts early in the week, and yes, we're rowing the boat. We're big fans of PJ Fleck, but we'd like to see Miami of Ohio stay within the 18.5 team. And let's not forget about that play or Ball State fetching 22 at Penn State. These are two college plays we gave out before the lines moved. And if you're playing Miami of Ohio, that line has gone from 20 down to 18.5 and keeps on sliding. So get your play in now. It's not sacrilege. Gophers can still win this game, right. 31-17, and everybody wins, and that's what I'm calling for.
There he is. He is Gorgamatic, a.k.a. Kevin Gorg. That is going to do it for this episode of It's Gorgamatic, but we're back again tomorrow morning at 8:30, and we are talking NFL. All right, what you hear today, it's not automatic, folks. It's better. It's Gorgamatic. Have a great Saturday.
Thank you for engaging with It's Gorgamatic. You can find more episodes of It's Gorgamatic at www.letsplaysportsnetwork.com, on the Let's Play Sports Network Facebook page, Twitter account, YouTube channel, and everywhere you find your favorite podcasts. Please rate us if you liked It's Gorgamatic, as that's how we find and build an audience, which will allow us to bring you more great content from the Let's Play Sports Network. Thanks for joining us, and remember, it's not automatic, it's better. It's Gorgamatic.